Thank you, Ali, and thank you for letting me use your Mac because the flickering problem, but then I also learned about the Shadow Broker's release of tools today, so I should probably keep my PC turned off for the entire Easter weekend. So I appreciate the use of the Mac here. I'm Jack Snoeyink. I'm a rotator from UNC Chapel Hill. I've been at NSF for 2 years in Computing and Communication Foundations. I'm also the CCF representative to the National Robotics Initiative and to Smart and Autonomous Systems. My job as a rotator, don't tell anybody else at NSF, but about 35% of the program directors are rotators. And we tend to leak more information than some of the permanent staff members because we get to rotate and get out of there before hopefully they catch us leaking too much information. Leaks are very popular in DC these days, but I'll try to be careful about that a little bit. Mostly I want to represent CISE, the Computer and Information Science and Engineering Directorate. Some of you may be interested in knowing more about engineering and other directorates at NSF too. I'll mention some of those, but I represent CISE here today, which has essentially 4 divisions, 3 main divisions. The first division is just recently renamed Office of Advanced Cyber Infrastructure. I'm in Computing and Communication Foundations, Computer and Network Systems, and many of you may be familiar with the Information and Intelligence Systems. CISE, NSF programs in CISE in particular, we have a lot of core programs concentrating on those 3 main divisions. Again, as I said, I'm the Jack or the Joker here in Algorithmic Foundations. Is my cluster in CCF. Many of you are, quite acquainted with the Robust Intelligence in the IIS, or many, maybe possibly these other programs in the CISE core. But mostly I want to talk today about the cross-cutting programs, which is where the Robotics Initiatives primarily sit. Just a few, a little bit more of a picture of CISE by the numbers. Students may also be interested in this. The CISE budget, the NSF budget is about $7 billion, at least the last time we had a budget, which is 2016. We're on continuing resolution this year, which makes things a little bit complicated. We don't have all of our money. We want to make some awards, and we'll find out at the end of the month whether they shut us down at the federal government or not. I never know whether I should be joking about this or not. This is the truth. So you can. This is public information, so I'm not leaking anything there. CISE, we run 8,000 proposals, 372 panels. The one number that you shouldn't believe here is the 23%, because that's counting everything, including supplements and workshop grants and things where we call for the grants, and so that inflates the acceptance rates. But we affect a lot of people, faculty, postdocs, 490 of them, graduate students and undergraduate students, supported by grants coming from CISE. This one I always have trouble believing, but if you're an academic in CISE disciplines, NSF is really the only game in town when it comes to federal research. For the engineers, there are other sources for federal funds, but just trying to emphasize the importance. I started with a mission slide. I'll come back to that, but CISE programs do address a lot of national priorities, and you see the RoboBee in there as one of the pictures of that. You can find a lot more on the web. You can find more about any of these programs by talking to me or other program directors. I don't want to spend a lot of time listing a bunch of programs after all the exciting people we've had this morning and this afternoon talking about doing things. I don't want to talk about too many programs. Unless you're interested, then come and talk to me one-on-one afterwards. Happy to talk more. This is one picture that CISE gets a lot of mileage out of. I just took a snapshot of the robotics end of this. This is showing connections in different research areas. They affectionately know it as the tire tracks diagram. Showing connections, it's been updated a couple of times. The most recent update was 2012, so I want to see the next update for this with robotics. showing connections between industry, academic or university research and industry research, and things turning into products, and then becoming a solid line at being a $1 billion industry, and a thicker line becoming a $10 billion industry. By the time the next version of this comes out, the robotics industry will be there. In the U.S., internationally, it's past that already, but in the U.S., we'd like to see that. And this is a wide diagram, but this is just the database, computer graphics, and robotics one end of it. And it's interesting in the source of this diagram, there's a lot of little arrows that you probably can't see about movement of ideas or people from university to industry, or from university or industry research into product lines, where things actually happen. And it's this picture of the coupling is part of the story that we try to tell in CISE about the importance of what we're doing at the National Science Foundation in the academic and industrial research for turning into products that affect people's daily lives. And so the NSF mission to promote the progress of science, to advance the national health, prosperity, and welfare, and secure the national defense. I thought I'd have to say a bunch more about, philosophizing about, but there's been a lot of good comments about, Snoeyink had some excellent comments about, what we're doing changes the nature of work. And while we see the creative endeavor that we're doing in learning about robots, creating new robots, creating new capabilities for them, many other people are scared. Are they going to lose their opportunities for fulfilling work because of that, as Maya mentioned? And one of her statements was think about assisting, not just automating. Let's not just take the work away. Yeah, great. Now she's back here, so I can quote her, and you can go find her and ask her what she really said. Not just automating things. Gunther was talking about look to the needs, not just the technology push, solve the right problem. Since I come from UNC Chapel Hill, I always have to quote the founder of our department, which is another Brooks, not Roger Brooks, but Fred Brooks, where he talks about the computer scientist as a toolsmith. And the way you decide if you've been successful in building a tool is, can the user of the tool do their work in their context because of your tool? And so this notion of having the driving problem, assisting the intelligence, and not just having artificial intelligence, but intelligence amplification, are some of the themes that Fred addresses in computer scientists as toolsmiths. Oh, another connection to UNC Chapel Hill that I just saw walking the room. So what does a program director do? So S.K. Gupta finished up a rotation just before I started and was visiting the National Note Shed. He said being a program director is a great training for being a department chair, because you learn to try to see how much you can do with little resources, and you learn how to tell a lot of people no. I've never really wanted to be a department chair, but that's definitely true. The other thing you learn is to tell stories and to leak information. But you get an overview of think about it sometime, being a program director. Talk to Dr. Gupta, talk to me. NSF is always looking for good people as program directors. Okay, let me say some things about the National Robotics Initiative, which was started in the previous administration, went for about 5 years. Whenever a program at NSF goes for about 5 years, it's time to change things up, especially if there's a new administration coming in and you want to make sure that the program continues in some way. Henrik already mentioned the community roadmap input, which was important in directing NRI. National Science Foundation, as distinct from some of the other agencies such as DARPA, we try to represent the community as program directors. We need input from the community in establishing and carrying on programs. And so the work that was done in this roadmap was extremely valuable for NSF to be able to support this community at the level it has and going forward. This became a cross-agency initiative for many agencies involved. NSF sort of led the logistics of doing the reviews and things like that. But this is it's a community initiative, even if it comes from the president. I mean, because when the president says there shall be a national robotics initiative, the president doesn't necessarily send any money to it. It means that these agencies now have to carve out some money from the money that they're already receiving and direct it that way. I said NRI had to change after 5 years, and so it morphed from NRI 1.0 to 2.0, and also spawned smart autonomous systems. So some of the autonomy research that was in NRI 1.0 came off of a separate program. I'll say more about that. NRI 2.0 tried to increase in scale and variety. We lost a couple of the other agencies. Some of that was just budgetary timetabling. We're hoping that NASA will be back there again next year. We've been in discussions with that. They just weren't sure about their funding levels to be able to commit for the current year in either NRI or Smart and Autonomous Systems, but we'll hopefully be there for both. We have DOE, DOD, and USDA involved, and then various directorates in NSF. Not just CISE, but engineering, SVD, and HM. The vision of NRI 2.0, if I read all of this, you can find it in the solicitations. I do want to say that enriching quality of life and quality of work is something to be considered. And to sort of directed the co-robot focus of NRI, both 1.0 and 2.0, we're looking for robot helpers, or robots to work with people in this program. Of course, that leaves out some of the work on autonomy, and so this is why there's the other program as well. Research themes can be found in the solicitation, but since I want to try and keep within my time, it's a little confusing, the relationships between different programs, NRI, Smart and Autonomous Systems, and Cyber-Physical Systems. We try to make these pictures, but let me also leak some of the information. I mean, the first, let me just do this chronologically. The first deadline was the Smart and Autonomous Systems this year. It's a new program. 16.5 million. It had 265 proposals, or 197 projects proposed, involving 568 people. We've held all the 10 panels. We haven't met yet to make any decisions yet. I can't leak any more information than that about, so don't ask me more about the status if you were. The next one is 11 December in 2017, so this year. Those of you who applied for NRI instead of Smart Autonomous Systems will be glad, because the numbers were down to NRI because many people went to Smart and Autonomous Systems, and NRI is a bigger program. Roughly the same number of proposals and projects. A few more people involved. There the panels have been formed, but none of them have met yet, and so I really can't tell you any information about because nobody knows how that review process will go. We're just beginning the outline. And the Cyber-Physical Systems is a much longer running program, also 31.5 million. But it's a bigger program, and that one, the proposals all just came in, so we're still doing that. That's one I'm not directly involved in, unfortunately. Smart Autonomous System kept my January through March very busy, and NRI is keeping me busy at the moment. So one of the other things I do as a program director is, I'm a theoretician, so I solve puzzle problems, and I'm not good for anything, except I've been doing a huge amount of automation of the processes at NSF, and I've been working with the data scientists in engineering who grabbed the Darwin robot and labeled it, used it to label the tool that we made called PD3PO, that's her name. But, so I just, this is where I get the information from. So this is, over the 5 years of NRI, how many proposals did we have? Well, if you can read it, so it's 1,500 and some projects involving 5,000 people. And the one you might be interested in, we involved 707 reviewers who did 5,928 reviews. If you're among that, thank you very much. If you're a faculty member or postdoctoral and would like to be among that because you'd like to know how we do things, at NSF. It really helps to know your audience when you're writing a proposal. Tell me. We'll get you on a panel sometime so that we need a lot of help in getting community input on proposals. Here's the dates things came in. You can tell which years because everything spikes on the day. You get all the proposals on the same day. So, this lower spike is the most recent solicitation where Smart Autonomous Systems drew off a bunch of the NRI proposals. This, unfortunately, is the acceptance rate in NRI, 10% of the proposals, and here I'm just counting brand new proposals got awards. How do you improve that for yourself? Send us, especially when there's multiple programs, send a program director a 2-page description of what you're trying to do. Copy it to a couple of the program directors that might be relevant, and they'll get together and give you some advice as to which program best fits your idea. Give us suggestions for reviewers. Who reviews your proposal makes a big difference. You can do that as part of your submission, and the reviewers never see who you suggested, but we program directors do. And be on panels so that you know what your audience is and tell your story to a busy, intelligent, and skeptical audience, because they're smart. They know that less than 15% are going to be accepted, and so they're going to start out looking for what's wrong. So don't let them find anything wrong in your proposal. Happy to talk to you more about that for advice. Smart Autonomous Systems, again, you can look at the solicitation, ask me more. Has various research themes that aim primarily at autonomy. Industry partnerships in CISE, something we're interested in. We're committed to supporting early career faculty. Stay connected with CISE and stay connected with NSF. And talk to me more afterwards. I'll be around the rest of the evening.